Before Excel 2007, there was a feature called Data Form, sometimes simply called Form. It is still available, and it has one advantage to it, but because Microsoft has more or less buried it, the question seems to be, how long will it be around? Let's take a quick look at this feature called Form. In order to use this feature, what we need to do is to go to the Quick Access toolbar at the top of the screen. Now, most people will have this above the ribbon, possibly you've placed it below the ribbon, but in either case, we can either right-click any of the buttons and customize the Quick Access toolbar, or simply click the drop arrow that's on the right side of it and then choose More Commands. This brings us into the Excel Options dialog box. Choose Commands From, and you can choose either commands not on the ribbon or all commands, either one. And alphabetically, you'll see here under Form, right there, add this to the Quick Access toolbar. Click OK. Now, you don't have to do anything special with your data, no pre-requirements here, other than you've got some data that has a title row and at least one row of data. What do we gain from this? I'm going to click the Form button. Now it's in the Quick Access toolbar. It displays the very first record there. In other words, the information that we're seeing in row 2. And we can see each of the items of information, but because we can see this in the background just as easily, it's across, horizontal instead of vertical, no real advantage to this. But what if we're working with a different worksheet? I'm going to click on the scientific data sheet here. This has about 32 columns of data. I'm going to click the Form button for this worksheet. And here we see all the information about record number 1 for the moment. And you can see in the background, we can only see data out through column P. And even zooming back, at some point we couldn't see it all, but here we can. And if there's any advantage to Form, this is probably the most important advantage to it. We can see all the information about one record at a time without scrolling. If we do want to go down to the next record, you can click the arrow at the bottom here. I'll keep clicking it. At the top here, and notice how we're seeing 3 of whatever it is, 198 and so on. So we can keep clicking and looking at the data this way. That's a potential advantage. Another advantage can be if we use Form to add new records. So let's go to the next worksheet to the right called New Sales. Not a lot of data here just yet, but let's suppose we're going to add a record. Before we do, let's point out a couple of things. Within this worksheet, there's a formula in column F so that anytime you add a date, it automatically displays the month of that date. So this formula here is based on the data to its left. And out here in column I is a formula based on multiplying these two cells. So let's click within this data and activate Form. And there we see it. Recognize that the two fields that have formulas, months and total, don't have data entry type panels in them. So if we wanted to add a new record, and I don't want to do a lot of typing here, so I'll click New, and under Salesperson, I'll just type one of our salesperson's names, Mary Costa. I'll skip some of the information here, but I will put in a date. I'll put in April 12th of 2014, and as I click in Items, you won't see anything happening in month, but eventually we will. I'll just put in 3 items, and the unit price of these items is $690. And that's all we need to do. I'll just click Close. So we've added the new information, and automatically the formulas were brought downward. So the April was calculated, this was calculated. I'll eventually fill this in, of course, too. Now, is there any merit to that? Perhaps. Another possibility here is to use Form as a filter. And although not as good as the regular filter, it might have some merit. So I'm going to the Employees sheet here, and here too we'll activate Form. There's that Form button in the Quick Access toolbar. Now maybe what I'd like to see here, looking at the records this way, is just those employees who have a job rating of 5 and a status of hourly. Maybe we're considering the possibility of offering these people full-time jobs, so we just want to kind of quickly scan through the list here. Now, if you work with filter, that could be a better way, but let's at least show how we can do this with a Form. So choose Criteria, and then under Status, in this panel, we'll type hourly. And then in the panel for job rating, we'll put 5. That's our best job rating. And then from the criteria that we've chosen, then Find Next. So there's record number 77. That's the first person who meets both criteria. Michael Mosley. As we click Find Next, we're only viewing the records of people who are hourly and have a job rating of 5. But again, since Form has been more or less pushed in the background in terms of its accessibility, it might not be around that long. Again, recognize its two potential strengths. I think this is the lesser of the two, the ability to scan through the records that meet certain criteria. But maybe more important is that ability to recognize that when we're working with certain lists, seeing the entire record at once could be helpful. Once again, we're going back to that scientific data sheet. Off to the right here, there's an empty column, but more data off to the right. Now, the number of columns through column AF is 32. That's the actual maximum you can see in that individual Form dialog box. So once again, if we activate Form, we see all this information here. But if we were to delete column AG, and that means in effect pulling this data in, if we now try and use Form, it will not work. Too many fields in the data form. Wouldn't it be nice if they told us how many is too many? Well, anything beyond 32 is too many. So a feature with limitations and yet with a few advantages that you might want to take a look at.